with the quick wins comes confidence, right?
Yeah.
It's like you throw, if you got a rookie quarterback starting, you probably don't dial up the deep ball on too high safeties.
Yeah, man.
Let them throw a couple hitches, a couple crossing routes, build that confidence. Let's get a few completions. Okay, now we're here. Now we're cooking. Now we dial up the deep ball.
All right. Hot route, baby. Let's go. Come on.
Here we go.
I have no snare in my headphones.
Turn me up in my headphones.
Turn me up.
Need some more snare.
Turn me up.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mission Control Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stearns with Ascend Digital Agency. As always, appreciate the team at Roofer for help making this happen. If you want roof measurements, instant roof quotes, clean and pristine proposals, CRM solutions, the list goes on and on. Roofer is your squad. There's going to be a link down in the description. Click it. They'll know I sent you. You'll be happy you did. We got Nick Peret with Better Boss. What's up, cuz?
What's up, baby?
Dude, thanks for flying into Buffalo.
Dude, it couldn't be happier to be here, and also give a shout out at Roofer too. I got some clients. Absolutely love the platform. Super modern, new features coming out consistently. Great tool. I back it up. One
of the things, we're very selective with who we partner with. Like, we're not going to partner with a company unless there's use cases of excellence and there's efficacy to what they do. So one thing that I'll say about Roofer that made us align strategically is from day one, I had a lot of people, like when I started my agency running ads, they had the instant estimator. Everything they do, it works really well. But most importantly, the experience that every one of my customers had as far as like feedback given from their experience in dealing with Roofer and their team was sensational. And they actually have, I talked to Richie or Nick about this. They have a Slack channel dedicated to feedback where they actually take into consideration what their audience is saying as far as like, hey, new feature integrations and things like that, and use that to make iterations within the company and their product offerings, which I think is absolutely amazing. And I think a lot more companies would benefit from that type of mindset.
The best way to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
The people that are buying our stuff, what do they have to say? What do they think would make our product better?
Right. Rather than some techie who says this is the next big feature.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So you guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. So, Nick.
Yeah.
And is it LaCroix?
LaCroix? I love LaCroix too. Let me crack this bad boy open real quick.
If y'all want to sponsor, just slide in the DMs.
Ooh, that'd be a nice sponsorship. That'd be cool.
Listen, we align. The efficacy of this club soda water is fantastic.
Do you know how many roofers are thirsty right now?
A lot of thirsty
roofers, man.
Yeah. I mean, who better than LaCroix to satiate their appetite for something cold and bubbly? So I wanted to bring you on.
Yep.
I want to talk about roofing. I know that's weird.
I love roofing, man.
I love roofing too.
I love big roofs. I love roofing.
I love big roofs. I hate getting on roofs.
Yeah.
Not a big get on the roof
heights?
guy. Nope.
That's probably why.
Sure don't. There's a video circulating somewhere of me like crab walking off like a 412.
Oh no.
In my Yeezys. It wasn't great. It wasn't my proudest moment, but I will say I got up there.
You did.
But
maybe just stay behind the computer from now on, just for your safety and for everybody else's.
This fucking guy. What are some things that you've seen in the industry over the last 12 months that people should be aware of?
12 months. I mean, I think it's exciting to see the tech wave, of course, right? To see some modernization of these new tools coming out. Honestly, tools like Roofer are going to be leading the way for sure, right? And so I think when you're looking at roofing and you're looking at kind of that younger generation coming in, right, who's willing to do things differently, right? Because we all know the roofing contractor who's been in this space forever and is unwilling to change and adapt. Now, I think a lot of this younger generation is looking at business differently in roofing and how they operate, how they communicate with customers, how they implement technology and stuff like that. I think that wave's been pretty exciting because I think there's a lot of people who might be even younger or newer in the space who can dominate their market, honestly, if they do it right? I mean, you just got to think, who would you rather work for? A roofing contractor who's out of date, way behind, hasn't changed, and is not open to any kind of criticism or ideas to make the company better, or somebody who's younger, a little bit more modern, open-minded, looking at new opportunities in technology, right? I mean, it's just a more attractive business to even work at, let alone hire.
We call it constructive feedback, not criticism.
Feedback. I'll work on that.
I'm a big fan of euphemisms.
Thanks for the constructive feedback. I appreciate that.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that there's so many people that are just unwilling to evolve and to adapt?
It's hard to teach old dogs new tricks, I think, right? I think it's been working for them. So why change it? Mm-hmm. But the thing is what if it could be better, right? What if there is some pain points and some struggles or some areas where you could be making more money or operating better, right? You have to open your eyes up to that. Because I do think that some of these guys who think they're untouchable could be in trouble at some point.
Yeah.
If they don't change their mindset and approach in business, right? I mean, if you're still giving I know if you are giving paper estimates or it takes you a week to get an estimate out or whatever it might be, if you're not using automated communication to confirm appointments or follow up or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I think you're onto something, and it's kind of what you're used to. So if you've got a contractor and they've been in business for 30 years, when they started their business, like you said, what worked for them? Mm-hmm. Look at advertising. It was so simplistic in the sense of, okay, I'm going to buy a 2-page ad in the phone book, which is going to give me the number one position. And when people look in the phone book for a roofer, they're going to find me and I'm going to get the most calls. And if I've got a 1-page ad, I'll be behind the people with 2-page ads. I'll get less calls. There's not the dynamic nature of, Google ads and bidding on keywords and negative keyword lists and retargeting. And I feel as if it would be very overwhelming to somebody who's been conditioned to advertise this way to then come into a situation where there's all these variables that they have to account for, and it's way harder to attribute. Now, there is attribution, but it's never perfect. It's never as clean as we want. And when we can put something into a spreadsheet and say definitively if X then Y, it feels really good. It's super comfortable to us, right? You put a tracking number on a phone book ad, you're like, I got 139 calls. Whereas if you're doing like cross-channel marketing and you've got 7 different places where you're putting your information, some have tracking numbers, some don't. What's working? How well is it working? It can be frustrating for people to try to prove value. So, but you think of the younger generation, they grew up on Amazon, right? The younger, let's say you're 23 years old, Amazon's been a big part of your life for the majority of it. Yeah. Where it's like, you know what? If I want this, I tell mom or dad, they click this button and it's here tomorrow. I mean, even I remember when internet just became a thing, really caught on, and you had instant messenger and all these different things. It was, you order something online, it might be 2 weeks and you were fine with that because that's all you knew. Yeah. The younger generation now, they don't know what it's like to wait 2-3 weeks for something. And quite honestly, I've been conditioned. Amazon ruined me. Oh, 100%. When I go to put something in my Amazon cart and it's like, it'll be there by Wednesday next week, I'm like, fuck you. Yeah.
Seriously, I'm not buying that.
I'll find it from a different provider on Amazon.
Now you're pissed off. You're like, what, it's not gonna be here in 24 hours?
Yeah, exactly.
No, 100%. And it's funny because, I have 2 little cousins, and at the time, when I was kind of thinking about this, they were 10 years old. And they were just ripping on their iPads. Yeah. And so I'd always look at them and see what apps they were playing with. And I was just amazed by the speed and the ease they could get around on these different applications at that age. Yeah. And I always think, I'm like, one day that's going to be my competition. I didn't grow up like that, but you just got to think at a tech standpoint, they're going to be so much more advanced than I was, right? And so that's my competition. And I think some roofing contractors who are out of date should also be looking at that, of what that competition is going to look like and what their skill set's going to be and what kind of weakness or threat that presents to their company, right? So I think that's a big deal. And you mentioned Amazon. I'm always thinking about that too on the roofing side, right? I'm not to that point, but it's how could we have an add to cart experience, right? Where I want to create an interactive sales presentation based off of where they click, they get a different experience. And then they get to a point, it's all right, these are our systems. Which one do you want? You pick your system. All right, upgrades pop up. All right, pick your upgrades, click, right? And then that estimate is already templated out. Measurements are already pushed there. You can see the price for the good, better, best. And your upgrades, click, click, boom, done, right? How do we make it where it's almost just ad? Because I don't think people are either selling higher tier roofing systems and upgrades enough. And I think that's a big opportunity where if you present it every single time in the right way, where it's really easy for them to just add, I mean, your average ticket's going to go up, right? Like, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I think you got to ask, right? And it's the same thing with referrals, with upgrades. A lot of salespeople, and I don't think it's anything intentional. I think as a salesperson, regardless of what you're selling, you're typically tasked with, there's so much pressure around you getting the next sale, you serving your customers that you have, et cetera, depending on what your responsibilities are within the organization. But it's easy to forget, like, hey, you got 3 people that you have in mind that might be able to benefit from our product or our service.
Yep.
Right. And like, it just falls by the wayside. And the consequence of that is you're going to have to do more advertising to bring in more leads in order to satiate your crew and make sure that they have a full schedule and things like that, and which ultimately makes you less profitable, right? The more you have to pay to acquire jobs, that comes directly and impacts the bottom line. You said something earlier that I really like, which is, it's good now, but it could be great. Even if it's great, it could be better.
Right.
Our 5th core value is never stop growing here at Ascend, right? And in learning, in testing things. So we could have a campaign where a customer is incredibly excited. They're printing money. We're still going to try to find ways to make it better. Because if you don't, you're like on the wrong side of the creative destruction cycle.
Yeah.
Like we want to continuously improve for our clients because, I mean, selfishly, that makes us less disposable, right?
Yep.
And makes them more money in the process. And I think that, like, how do you influence a shift in mindset to where it's, okay, I'm going to stop being okay with the status quo. I'm going to try new things and not abandon that mentality when the first thing you try goes wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think, you said it with the mindset. And so maybe that's more of what the difference is when you're looking at the people who are willing to change, is trying to implement that growth mindset. That's really what it's all about. Just in business. If you don't have a growth mindset in the way you're operating your business and you're not trying to improve every day just in general, you're going to be out of luck, right? So I think it really does start there. And it's funny, with Better Boss, part of our process is handling the change management and the adoption of these different technologies. And so it's funny, I remember one of my first clients in the trades, I met with the AR lady, or accounts receivable. First thing she says to me, we've been doing this. They've been using QuickBooks Desktop. We've been doing this for the last 20 years. And as long as we don't change anything, I won't quit. Right? That's how my conversations start a lot of the time. And so I think the biggest thing that I've noticed where I can help that shift is going to the key people in each department and making sure I'm listening to their input, their bottlenecks, right? What they want, all that kind of stuff, and making that a huge part of the project plan. And then from there, it's quick wins, right? So what can I get in their hands quickest to show an impact where I'm going to get people on board? And then also just the leadership shift. So I noticed that when I work with leaders who are really, really stressed out and they put that on me and the team throughout the process, the team isn't going to buy in as well. But if I can get leadership to be on board, show their excitement, and showcase how it's going to make everybody's life easier and possibly make them more money, then we're rolling.
Yeah.
Right. But it's all about that quick win for sure.
Yeah, I love that because with the quick wins comes confidence, right?
Yeah.
It's like you throw, if you got a rookie quarterback starting, you probably don't dial up the deep ball on 2 high safeties.
Yeah, man.
Let them throw a couple hitches, a couple crossing routes, build that confidence. Let's get a few completions. Okay, now we're here. Now we're cooking. Now we dial up the deep ball.
All right. Hot route, baby. Let's go. Come on.
Here we go. Yeah, that's good. So let's lock in for a minute on Better Boss. So elevator pitch, what is Better Boss?
Yeah, so basically fractional CTO. So it starts with just streamlining your process, right? And then from there, we're going to implement the software to support a scalable strategy, right? So we're going to do consulting first. From the consulting side, we're going to build out a custom project plan, right, with key milestones and tasks. When we're looking at the components, it's going to be sales and estimating, then project management, job costing, client communication, and then vendor and subcontractor management. So we're going to start from that very beginning. As soon as that lead comes in, what happens, and work our way through all the way to closing out, invoicing, asking for the review, referral, etc. Right? But every plan is custom. So I'm always going to suggest different softwares, but if they're happy with the one that they have currently, we'll make it work. Right? But my thing is anywhere where there's bottlenecks, manual entry, incorrect reporting, areas that can be automated, etc. Right? Anything that can be sped up and optimized, we're going to focus on that. And so as soon as we kind of get done with one of those key components, then we actually go into the adoption and the training, right? So then we're going to get hands-on with the team, have them actually execute whatever we just set up, right? And set up training modules and everything like that. And then we'll kind of move on to that next section, right? But it's been key where I've noticed you can't go through the whole thing, right, without the training and stuff. So it's like, let's get that one sales and estimation portion done. Let's train them up. Let's get them dialed in. Perfect. Let's move on to the next department type thing.
How do you handle, you've got a business owner, they know their business better than you know your business better than them. So you have recommendations, they're pushing back, and you feel it's something crucial. How do you handle that with a client?
So I always tell them, right? And I'll tell you this, probably about 75% of my clients are very open-minded and trusting because, hey, that's why they hired me. But I always tell them my honest truth, even when I know it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. Yeah. And then from there, it's up to them. Because, I mean, you can make any tools work. Just for me, though, when I go in, I know that these people are paying me to optimize their processes. I want it to be the best as possible, right? I want it to be as easy as possible for their team to utilize and maximize that technology. So I'm always going to give them my straight up feedback. But at the end of the day, I'm there to make their life easier. I can make any of those tools work, but I'm always going to be 100% transparent with my thoughts on feedback, and then I'll let them decide from there.
I like that. If somebody has had experience with a similar style company and they didn't get the results they want, they had this beautiful concept of how it was going to be rolled out with milestones and all these different things, and we're going to train on this, but it never unfolded that way. How would you handle that situation if somebody was interested in working with you? I
mean, at that point, I think I'm just selling me and my values. I'm way too anxious to not get the job done. I will stay up all night. I'll tell you, probably in the last 2 years, I probably pulled 50 all-nighters working on certain workflows and stuff like that I just didn't think was almost possible until I got it executed. So if you're hiring better, boss, we're going to get the job done. And you got to think too, when you're looking at this reputation, I think that's been a big thing for me over the last 8 years that I've been in the space. I'm going to make sure I back up my reputation. I want to be known as a guy that gets the job done and makes their vision a reality. And I'm not going to sleep until I do. That's just the honest truth.
Okay. What are some of the most common problems that you see as far as discernible inefficiencies that are impacting the business in a negative way?
Integration is always going to be a big one, right? So you're using multiple tools throughout that process and not having that data properly pushed from system to system, right? Where you're doing a lot of different manual entry and stuff like that. Stuff that could be a big one. Reporting is usually going to be a big one. Accounts receivable is going to be a big one for sure. Just cash flow in general, right? And the collections process is going to be a big one. Streamlining the insurance process is going to be a big one. Most people think they have sales and estimating pretty dialed, but I think once I get in, there's always a lot of opportunity to make that better, more efficient, and more strategized for sure. So,
is there a such thing as over-optimizing?
I don't think so. Because it's one of those things where it's like, I could get done with the project and then all of a sudden they want to implement another piece, another system. They want to go deeper on something. And it's almost limitless, right? Of how deep you can kind of go. And I think it's one of the things where you probably should continue to refine it, right? I mean, how often do you refine your processes?
A lot.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like endless. It's like, what can the imagination think of, right? I have a contractor who's doing just intros with the sales team via video, right? And I know people do it, but stuff like that's cool. And how many ideas like that could you think of, right? And for me, just a simple idea like that, where you're showing face to the name before someone shows up to your house,
Yeah, and by the way, they don't trust you, so that helps build trust.
100%.
Hi,
right?
I'm Mike. I've been in the community for 35 years. Also, I love dogs. Please make sure it doesn't bite me. Can't wait to work on your home.
Exactly, right? But how many ideas could you think of like that, though?
Right.
So it's almost endless when it comes to that.
So one of the things that I've seen in the roofing CRM space specifically is, and there's a lot of guys that offer CRM services and things like that, is there's a concept and there's all these fantastic things that are going to happen. But the team that hires said person, they don't get the adoption. They don't get the buy-in from the team. And what they end up doing is they end up paying, the price of a Lamborghini for a 1993 Chevy Corsica.
Yeah.
Meaning they're using like 5% of the features. Now they're paying a CRM a couple $1,000s a month. They're paying external platforms that are integrated with that CRM a boatload of money. And it becomes a car payment that shouldn't be, right? What would be your advice when a contractor is hiring somebody in this type of situation to make sure that they get the full benefit and realize all the different functionality that's capable?
I would say treat them as a valuable member of the team, have clear communication, give them access to everything that they need. I remember I was working for a company in LA, and dude, I just couldn't put it was a concrete company, and I couldn't put together like their estimating process, because what I like to do is basically once I get access to everything, I go and I look at basically all their job files, all their software, all their documentation, and you'll notice that there's variance between jobs, right? Whether it's line items, whether it's the way they went about the process, like there's always gonna be these differences. And what you're trying to find is basically like that ideal scenario, right? In each situation that you can replicate, so it's rinse and repeat every single time. And there's so many differences once you get in there. So if you don't give them access to every crucial component in your flow or your processes, they're going to have missing pieces that they just can't clarify to put the whole thing together. So I think just making sure you're communicating, over communicating, and giving them access to every single piece, that's essential. Don't be leaving anything out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the biggest issues that I see hinder roofers specifically is the pay to go away mentality. I have this issue, I'm going to pay you, do your job, make it go away.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work with marketing. It doesn't work in advertising. It doesn't work clearly with the CRM side. So do you have tips as far as like that process to make it less likely that they fall into that mindset? It maybe like there's a dedicated person and a dedicated time where you guys are meeting. There's a cadence to the meetings or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, so basically the way I do it is in that kickoff session, that's the only time that I'm strictly meeting with the leadership team.
Okay.
And that's basically their vision. Right. And their struggles, where they want to go, everything like that. From there, then I try to take one key person from each department when I'm working on that section. And now I'm running everything, me and this person. Now we got to be in the same wavelength. Yeah. Right. Now we're connecting. Now I'm running everything through to them. Once that's done, then I'm moving on to that next key person. Yeah. And we're working hand in hand. Right. So I'm always trying to find somebody that's going to be like, oh, you're going to be my guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or gal. Right. And especially in operations, there's a lot of great women in roofing that are actually more of a crucial part than the owner, to be 100% honest, in terms of running the day-to-day operations.
But the owner gets all the glory. It's like the doctor and the nurse. Yeah. You see the nurses in the room 150 times, servicing the patient, and then the doctor comes in, signs the discharge paperwork, and to him goes all the glory.
Dude, the owner's just driving, in his truck from job site to job site because that's what they like to do.
Shooting videos and shit about how great their company is.
Exactly, dude. I'm like, you don't know what's going on. Hey, let me call blah, blah, blah. She's running the show right now.
Yeah. So you run a business, I run a business. Yeah. A lot of folks watching run a business, and concepts and theories, like, they're so fantastic, and then bullets start flying, shit goes wrong on a job. They got to address an employee situation, and the prioritization can tend to shift where something like this could fall down the priority, and you blink an eye and it's 5 years down the road.
Oh, for sure.
So is there an exercise that you would recommend to where this can stay top of mind and somebody could isolate, like, now is the time for me to get this stuff addressed?
I mean, honestly, it's going to stay at the bottom unless you hire somebody out. just because I think about how many hours I spent learning all these different tools and stuff like that, and they just don't have that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember even when I had my marketing company, just building out our CRM myself, dude, I had no time. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to put, 5 hours into this, running the business, doing all this stuff. Unless you have somebody internally that can take on a project like that, it's never going to happen, because we all know the owner's not going to do it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you're going to have to do it at some point, and you need to prioritize this kind of stuff, because you got to think what you're doing right now as an owner, if you're not, is you're being very, very reactive, right? So every day is like a fire, because there's different bottlenecks and issues that are happening on a regular basis that you could resolve if you streamline these certain things, right? So I think that's a good idea to start with. It's like, where are our bottlenecks? Where are our customers complaining? Where are we having issues with jobs, right? And making that a list, and then from that, reverse engineer it to, okay, this is our priorities, this is our task that we have to complete to get rid of those problems.
Yeah, that's smart, and that makes a lot of sense. I find that a lot of folks have the treat the symptom mentality, right? I got a headache, I'll take an ibuprofen.
Yeah.
And they're never digging deep into, because again, time is a scarce resource, especially when you're running a business. They're never digging deep into what is causing the symptom to manifest. What's the underlying condition that's making it to where we have X amount of customer issues or production issues or collection issues, right? So kind of digging into those things, it's a heavier lift to diagnose the underlying issue and to address that up front. But like the residual impact as far as giving your team members time back, reducing friction within the workplace, making the customer experience better is so fucking powerful and worth it.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess, kind of being situationally aware and diving into that.
Even though like if you're looking at your team, and if you're a roofing contractor and your systems are out of date, everything's a pain in the butt. Why would you want to work there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm a modern person, I'm very business savvy. I want to grow my career. I want to make money. I want to be successful. When I look for an organization that has the tools and resources in place for that to happen?
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah. And the ones that don't are probably a lower tier candidate. They're going to make less of an impact.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want A players, because you know what it is. If you hire a C person, you might as well do the job yourself.
So if somebody were looking to hire a company like Better Boss, and let's say they've got 5 people that they're talking to, what are some red flags or things to look for to maybe discern that they might be a C player?
I mean, I think just you can tell pretty quick in like a discovery call based off of how well they know how to operate a roofing business, the questions they're asking, right? And you can kind of tell how informed they are for sure, right? Just based off of that, right? Do they know about, measurements? Do they know about, all these different things that are roofing specific that would make sense? Do they know, are they asking you about common pain points already based off their experience that relates to you and understands where you're coming from? I think that's just a big part there, just from that discovery call for sure.
Okay. I've made content about, questions you should ask a marketing agency before you hire them. Because there's all sorts of things that kind of go sideways when they break up, and they don't know that these things happen until they break up, unfortunately. So for instance, you go to sign with a marketing agency and they're like, yeah, you got a new business. We're going to buy you a domain. We're going to get all squared away for you. We're going to set up your website. It's going to be fantastic. Fast forward 2 years. Turns out when you try to leave, they own your domain. They're holding you hostage. You don't own any of your website, right? They own that. You were just leasing it and you didn't know. So the cure to that is on having a clear expectation on the front end. Like, do I own my domain? Will I own my website? Is it going to be through an agency account for the Google Ads, or am I going to have access to it? If you own it and I have access to it, when I leave, do I get access to the data? Some things that you can proactively, as opposed to being reactive, to your point, being proactive and understanding those things on the front end so you can make an informed decision. Are there any specific questions you would recommend asking a company like yours when a roofing contractor is trying to hire them?
That's a good question for sure. I mean, I would say For me, I always try to get like an email address that is one of theirs. So like HQ at whatever their domain is. And I connect everything to that. Right. So anything that when I'm done, that's all going to be in their name. And then they have that one HQ email that is basically the hub of everything and the admin of everything that they can utilize. So that's always going to be theirs. Right. So I would say something like that for sure. Of course, asking for reviews, asking for references, stuff like that's going to go a long way. I think asking specifically based off of the certain problems you have, what that ideal solution is going to look like, right? Like, okay, so if this is our problem, what are you going to do here? Right? And asking for very specific details of how they're going to solve that problem is going to be good, because you want to make sure they're informed and actually capable of doing what you want, because I think they'll overpromise what they're capable of doing. And then once it comes time to shine, they're not shining at all, right? Yeah. All of a sudden it's like, well, we can't actually do that.
Yeah, so that's weird. It's not what you told me a month ago when I paid you.
So understanding their capabilities and what they can actually execute on.
That's really hard though. If you're coming from like, sure. If I'm hiring somebody, I'm coming from a place of ignorance. I don't know. So I'm doing my best to trust in a strategic partner to guide me as far as what the solutions are. So if somebody's coming to me and telling me they provide the solution, maybe they were recommended by a couple of people. I mean, I've had the experience happen. Yeah. Twice. Yeah. You know, with companies working on the CRM. I guess one thing I would have asked in hindsight, knowing what I know now, is what is it going to take to upkeep, and then what is it going to cost in the event that something breaks down? Yeah. Right? Like, let's say we get through a 6-month retainer, everything is built out the way that it needs to be, and then 3 months down the road from there, something goes sideways and is causing friction within our process, a breakdown of sorts. What does it look like to have you come in and address that issue for us?
Honestly, so I'm on a retainer, right? Yeah. So I am on a retainer, but they can stop and start as they wish, right? So I think it's like a 3-month minimum, and then after that, it's month to month, right? And so I do have an onboarding fee, but I usually just waive that for somebody who's coming back on if they need something or whatever it might be. Because it's one of those things where I realize that roofing companies do not have somebody internal usually who is really advanced with technology.
Sure.
And there's so many areas in their business that they can benefit from that I think when I was trying to build out the business model, I was really struggling on that, because I wanted to be known more than just like a CRM company, right? Sure. I want all those different components, as soon as that lead comes in, all the way to closing it out, all those different areas. And so there's so many things where it's like, once we get done with something, usually they think of another idea to go deeper on it, where it's almost like this endless cycle where they just keep thinking of opportunities that I could help them out with, right? And then at that point, I become such a like key part of their business. And if they pulled me out, all of a sudden, all those visions that they had that they want to continue, they don't have somebody in place to make that a reality.
Yeah.
So I really haven't run into that a whole lot, to be honest with you. But it's one of those things where they just want to keep adding and adding and adding, right? Because once you can see the benefits, it's like, why would you stop it?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to ask you a question. All right.
I think you have been asking me questions.
Yeah, we've asked a lot of questions. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with 100% accuracy, but I want to know the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you the question. What is the most impactful thing that you've done for a client as far as system, process, et cetera, in your current role with Better Boss?
Mm-hmm. I would say with on the commercial side, I had a company that was doing, multi-million-dollar projects on a regular basis, and they didn't know if they were profitable. They'd forget to send like a $30,000 invoice. That was probably the biggest one too. And then also kind of structuring it where, a lot of people don't kind of break off or put in verticals, their different services, offerings and stuff like that. And then look at that at a job costing standpoint. So they might be wasting so much time, money and energy, resources into certain types of projects to only realize that they're actually losing money or whatever it might be. And when you're looking at projects that size, when you're already could be strapped with cash flow, and now you realize you're not even being profitable in them, then you can shift resources into a more profitable strategy. I always think less is more, right? Do less things really, really well and dial those in, but be able to create credibility on that side for sure, right? I have some contractors that are spending every single Monday creating reports, because all their systems were not integrated.
Right.
So they're taking data from all these different sources and creating these custom reports every single Monday, right? And then be able to allow them to break free from that and get a whole nother day of their time, right?
Yeah.
52 days a year. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of time.
I value my time. Can't get more of that.
That's probably like honestly my least favorite because it's such a deep dive, but it's the most impactful, right? So I love seeing the results.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine, if you've got a couple different projects going on of that magnitude, what goes into the administrative side, what goes into the production side, the materials ordering, making sure everything's coordinated. It's a well choreographed dance. So it's a frictionless experience, frictionless for the customer. I'd imagine, especially with different pay terms, one might be net 60, net 90, it's not terribly difficult for, you first hear that somebody forgot to send a $30,000 invoice. And it's like, what are you, nuts?
Right.
But I'd imagine when the bullets are flying, it might be easier than you might think to forget to send an invoice.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, there's a million things going on, right? And if you don't have it processed out, you're running and gunning.
Yeah.
And when you're running and gunning, no matter how great you are, stuff's going to get missed. Yeah. It's just the way it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What questions you got for me?
What about marketing, man?
What about it?
What about marketing? So
the more people know what you do and that you'd be a good solution for their problems, the more likely they are to buy from you.
Ooh, so create awareness.
Create awareness. That's step one.
I can't just generate a lead. Like I have to create awareness too.
Well, dude, if they don't know about you, how are they going to buy from you?
But I hire you for leads though.
We can get you leads. We're going to get you leads through.
Have you had this conversation before?
The first step of that's going to be awareness. So let's say you've got nothing. You've got a logo. You don't even have a website. Like we can get you leads. So we're going to run ads and we're going to run ads to landing pages that we create. But the first step of that is the awareness, right? Yeah. They see your ad. Awareness. Check. What a lot of people fail to realize is the compounding nature of omnipresence. I fucking hate the word. It's overused. It's so played out, but
you don't feel smart when you say omni?
No. If somebody has had exposure to your brand on a local Facebook community group and they've seen a wrap truck and they've seen a yard sign and they've seen a door hanger and they've seen your crew with shirts on, and then they're looking for a roofing company and then they see your Google ad and they come to your website, there's so much confidence in your brand already, whether it be consciously or subconsciously. Even just when they see the first, appearance of the search engine result page and they see 5 contractors, it creates that, oh, I know them effect, which is what you want with branding. So many people, because of the delayed gratification of branding, you have to do the things that are going to take time to pay off, like you're getting paid at the end of the day for them. Simple as that. Far too often, people give up on things that take time to manifest results because they're not getting that paycheck end of the day. I always think about when I was like 13, 14, I used to fold boxes. I was folding as many pizza boxes as I could because I was making $5 an hour off the books, which at the time was a lot of money for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get paid at the end of the day. And I knew that the more boxes I fold, the more likely it is that they would call me back the next week so I could fold more pizza boxes. Right? Taking that same mentality, and even if something takes a year or 2 years to manifest, attacking it every fucking day like you're getting paid at the end of the day. And if you do that with something like branding, the compounding nature of that brand equity and the confidence in your brand, the brand sentiment, is so much more impactful, even as far as like what you'll end up paying for lead on Google Ads or SEO, because more people feel comfortable with you.
Yeah, I love that. And it almost brings you back to the red flags question, right? Like, what are some red flags if you're going to hire somebody like me? I would say if they're over promising the timeline and the budget, in all honesty, because it's one of those things where it's going to take time, right? And I honestly got to the point where in the front end until we get going, I don't even set a project deadline because I know they're going to add another 10, 15 things on top of that. And I'm pretty transparent with that. You know what I mean? Where it is a process, right? We're not going to change the way you operate your business overnight. We got to focus on those different fundamentals. But I wanted to ask you too. So Google, so like what's is there any trends on Google that you're noticing? Is there any kind of updates on that side that you guys?
There's always updates.
Always, yeah.
Some more consequential than others. You know, the big thing is AI right now, and AI is taking over. Google's going to be irrelevant. It's like, dude, the amount of site traffic we still get is significant. And people come with concerns, and it's really interesting. It's like, well, why is that a concern of yours? What's your greatest fear? That everybody's going to stop using Google tomorrow? I don't know. What's the viability of that? Like, Google may cede market share to ChatGPT and to TikTok and all these different. One of my employees, they use TikTok almost exclusively as a search engine. They're the younger demographic. So, like, it's viable. People use it. The amount of traffic and queries on Google, though, is so substantial still. It's inconsequential.
So what do you think about AI then? Just the future of AI?
I think that people should use AI. I think it's a great resource. I think that it's consistently getting better and better and better. I'm really excited to see where it's at in like 5 years. Kind of scares me. Not from the sense of, oh my God, my business is threatened by it. From the sense of, we're talking about putting, chips into people with Neuralink and what AI can do, like standalone, like having relationships with AI. Like, there's some weird shit out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's still no stats that people are going to have like as many relationships with robots in the future as real human beings. I could see it for sure. I'm not gonna lie. I could 100% see it. But for me though, I mean, I've been using AI hours and hours a day for the last two years. Yeah. Right. Like I was telling you with my last company, I wasn't the techie. I was the business owner, leader, whatever you want to call it. And all of a sudden, I decided to be a techie, right? Like I said, I never coded in my life. All of a sudden, with the help of ChatGPT, I'm writing 1,000 pages of JavaScript. Right? So it definitely opens up doors and be some opportunities, even like on the side of like training. I have a lot of people come, hey, my team always asks me questions. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you could have just a little chat bot on your browser for every employee that has all the SOPs, all the documentations, all the questions, or all the answers to questions, and they're just asking that bot rather than hitting you up for everything? Yeah. And I mean, the greatest thing, it can make you so much more efficient. So like, let's take the coding example. You go from having next to no coding experience to writing 1,000 pages of JavaScript, 10,000 pages, whatever. AI is not at the point where it is error free. So if you have, if you're a coder, let's say, and you're a quality coder, I don't think your position's threatened if you evolve utilizing AI. Now you could become 10 times more efficient, right? And that increases your value so substantially, whether you're running your own business, you're working for a large company, a Fortune 100 company, it doesn't matter, because they ultimately need somebody that has the know-how to be able to address shit code in the process and be able to point these things out, refine them to ultimately deliver the best product that's available. Like, we use it for a ton of things. I use it all the time, a lot of the times for ideas. Like, I'm thinking of this. I own a digital marketing agency. We're hiring a salesperson. What are things that are most important to a salesperson when hiring them? Okay, what are some things that I need to do internally? Here's my script. I'm a big fan of scripts, by the way. A lot of people shit on scripts. Like, people need a baseline to understand what you want the experience to be for your target customer. And how to bridge that gap. And I don't think that it shouldn't be something where they stay dependent on that script. It should be more like a pacifier. So if you're in roofing sales, how should the conversation start? What should the process look like ideally? And how do you get them from being somebody who has a need, who they don't know who they're confident is going to be able to solve it for them in the way that they want, to, I couldn't be more happy that I hired this company. There's a lot of room in between that. And there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. But how do you expect somebody to come into your company and ultimately actualize that type of experience? They should have some sort of guide, which would be like a script, a presentation, and then make it their own. Like, the best salespeople can go like a foundational understanding and make it better, because everybody has a different personality. They have their different flavors. And there's some remarkable sales coaches out there. I know I sent a customer to Top Rep. His team, they're like, it was absolutely fucking phenomenal. They couldn't have been more happy. I recently did an event with Deshaun Bryant.
he has a very interesting, and he's so entertaining. He had some great concepts that I was super excited to be a part of. And just as far as identifying the type of salesperson you have, the type of customer, and how you identify that customer and how you interact with that customer based on the type of customer there. It was really, really good. Recommend checking it out. But ChatGPT and other AI products, they're fantastic. But the biggest mistake that I see people making right now is just spamming out content, not checking it for plagiarism, not checking it to see like how strong the content is. I want to rank number one for roofing contractor. Write me an article that's going to rank number one on Google for roofing contractor. You and 1,000 other roofers are querying that same thing. And then they're putting out a bunch of content on their website, but a lot of it never gets indexed on Google. So it's on your website, but Google doesn't know it exists. And they don't take the next step, going into Google Search Console and checking index versus non-index pages, like seeing what we can do to actually get it on the search engine. They just assume, hey, I saw some guy on Facebook telling me that I should spam AI content and it doesn't make a difference. There's no difference between the two. And then the quality and how that reflects, like it could do the exact opposite of what you want from a conversions perspective. So if there's a homeowner that's coming on your website and they just see I've seen some egregious mistakes from AI content, like just factually incorrect shit. And if you've got a homeowner coming on there, I did it as a test. I was like, I think it was like Debo Roofing. I was like, is Debo Roofing the best roofer in Buffalo? And it was like, yeah, they're known for their resounding customer experience. And like, it's a fucking fictitious company. So if you put that on a guide on your website and somebody goes and Googles them, checks it out, see it doesn't exist, now they don't trust you whatsoever. Because a lot of times, like doing guides, like kind of like Yelp started doing, like top 10 roofing companies, top 10 restaurants, that stuff works. But you could just as easily diminish the confidence in your brand as you could move them closer to the sale by having bad information and correct information. So if you're doing AI content, have somebody read it over, make sure that it's factually correct.
And it doesn't have to just be content. It could be SOPs. It could be anything that you can create with it. And I think you also need a process that you do every time for anything you're doing by AI. So for me, like I like to do chunking. I never have it spit out everything at once. Right. So I have it get me an outline first. Right. I have it first give me the first section. And then once I get the first section, like one paragraph, exactly where I want it to be, then I have it repeat that process. But I think a lot of people just have it spit out everything at once. And it's funny on the AI side, we're talking about how these developers, these coders can utilize AI to maximize their full potential, right? So now if you have one coder who's using AI versus one who's not, obviously the output and the production with the person who's using AI is going to be much higher, right? They're going to be a better person. And so when you're looking at the roofing space, you got to think this, you're looking at an out-of-date company with no processes and anything like that versus someone who's just dialed in. Just think about how much exponentially better that contractor can be than the other. Yeah.
I like to do an exercise with some folks. I've done a lot in the past, and I learned it from Bob Newbert. He was actually on the show maybe a year and a half ago. He was my entrepreneurship teacher at UB.
Oh, that's cool.
And I only took the class because I was working full time. I had my daughter, and the latter half of my collegiate career, I just took classes that fit in my schedule, and this happened too. I'm so glad that it did. I learned so much from this guy. It's unreal. But he had us do kind of like a journal entry every day. You know, look at where you're spending your time and document for 1 week, everything that you're doing. You log into Yahoo Fantasy Football, put it on the sheet, how much time you're spending there. So I'll do the same thing with roofers. Like, okay, so how much, I want you to document for a week where you're spending your time, how much time you're spending. And then after that week, let's assign a value to the time, right? What is your time worth? $100 an hour, $500 an hour? All right, now let's look at the things, circle the things that only you can do. What's left? How much stuff are you doing on a weekly basis that other people could do?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's like, oh, well, hire for that. Well, I can't afford that. Okay, well, you're spending 20 hours a week doing shit that someone else could do. You said your time's worth $250 an hour, so you're spending $5,000 a week in your time, the most valuable currency, to do something that somebody that would make, $20 an hour would do. If you paid them $20 an hour, it's $3,200 a month. That's like a $17,000 gap.
That's a great exercise.
Go hire them now. What are you waiting for? Why are you still here?
For real though, it's a great exercise because I think all of us are guilty.
1,000%
at some point.
1,000%.
You know what I mean? So to actually have someone tell you to go do that and assign it, I think is a good thing to do for sure.
Yeah. What else? You got anything else before we wrap up?
Let's say, maybe I'll just give it a shout out to all the contractors out there, right? Yeah. So I know that, we talk about growth mindset a lot, right? And that's one of your guys' core values, right? Is growth or something like that. And so I think approaching anything, no matter where you are at with your career, whether you're just getting going or if you're at the tail end with that growth mindset and always looking at ways to adopt this new technology our motto is built to be better. Right. And so that's who we're looking to work with. People who are always looking to get better. No matter where you at, if you had the best year ever, just keep getting better.
Yeah.
Just keep getting better. Right? Keep getting better, baby. Keep getting better. Let's go, baby. Come on, baby. Let's go to the moon, baby.
Those small changes, I say it all the time, those small changes compound so much. I just read Atomic Habits.
Yeah, it's a great book.
And one thing that I really liked, and it's something that I've thought of through this lens for years, so it was like confirmation bias. I was like, yeah, I'm on the right track. 1% a day, over 100 days, over 100 days, you're 100% better.
Yep.
And the 1% in the moment doesn't feel like much.
Yep.
Doesn't feel like much. And you're not going to take a step forward every day. And that's okay. I think one thing that I consistently try to be mindful of is I'm very accountable. So like as far as self-awareness and accountability, one thing I always struggled with was when I don't get that 1% better, or I don't take that step forward and it's a step back. The day just beat the shit out of you. There's a fine line between accountability and just beating the shit out of yourself.
Yeah.
So that's something that I always work on, and I'm cognizant
100%,
of.
100%.
And I'm not great at it yet.
No, 100%. We all got a trillion struggles. You know what I mean? No matter how great we are, that's the thing. But like for me, when I'm looking at people who are willing to make those changes, they're also usually like willing to make the changes in their personal life too.
Yeah.
That person that's always just trying to get better, trying to go to the gym, trying to eat healthier, all that kind of stuff. It almost goes hand in hand as a good representation of how you handle your business too. Yeah. So if you want to have just a better life, if you want to be a better family person, if you want to, eat healthier, all that kind of stuff, it's like, just throw this in there too, right? Just make it where it's just who you are, right? No matter anything you touch, you're just trying to improve it and go in with that growth mindset.
Love that. Well, I couldn't be more grateful for you sharing your wisdom and flying in and spending the day with me.
Thanks for having me, man. Great spot here, man. Shout out Buffalo. Let's go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
And thank you for tuning in today.
Yes.
Couldn't be more grateful for that. And shout out to the team at Roofer for, again, making all this happen. We love you guys, and we appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts. And we gone.
Peace.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.